Another innocent young woman dead, this time at Overberg High School. What's going on in South African schools? What's going on with the violence in our country? And how do we solve it? Let's find out. Spread the fire. Welcome back to SMWX, which stands for the Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh Experience. I'm Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, and on this channel, we explore South African politics through interviews and analysis. Great to have you back on board. You know, on this channel, we do many things. We debate sometimes, we celebrate, and sometimes we mourn and we commiserate together in this crazy, sad, beautiful country of ours. And today's episode, although we will end on a slightly happy note because I don't want to depress you too much, we're going to mourn together because sad things happen in our country and we need to collectively share how we feel about that sadness. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a couple of things, but in particular, a recent incident at a South African school, Hoërskool Overberg, where a grade 10 learner was tragically killed. The area of Caledon is in the Overberg region of the Western Cape in South Africa. It's a beautiful small town in South Africa's Overberg region. And the Overberg High School, or Hoërskool Overberg, is one of the jewels in that town. It's got a proud sporting tradition. It is an impressive and important school in South Africa's education landscape. Now, last week, someone went missing, and that person's name is Deveney Nel. She was a grade 10 learner at Overberg High School. And after going missing because she didn't catch her lift home as she usually did on a Wednesday, eventually her parents or her mother put out a distress call, basically, to the police. And eventually the police did a search in the town, including in the school. And tragically, she was found having been stabbed, locked in a storeroom in her school, in Overberg High School. Just tragic. And, you know, these kind of violent stories we almost become numb to as a country. We all have a story of how we or someone close to us has been affected by violent crime. But you always think that certain people must be exempt from this because children and young girls and, you know, people who don't deserve, no one deserves it, but some people are especially vulnerable. You know, when stories of people who are just at the beginning of their lives reach the headlines, it hits different. And this story has really struck a chord with me. And I guess the first thing is to say is just, you know, how I sympathize with her family and the Overberg High School community, parents, teachers, staff, alumni, anyone connected with the school and the community as a whole. I'm sure people are reeling. People must be in shock. The school had to be shut down the day after. And I'm sure it's a really unstable period for that community. So to the extent that I know this channel is now reaching lots of different corners of the country, if anyone is connected to it, you know, I share my deepest sympathies and sorrows with you. And I think South Africa in general, because this has become a national story, shares sympathies and solidarities with all of you. Fam, I just wanted to interrupt this episode to let you know the 4 ways you can help SMWX. Way number 1, you can invite me to speak at your institution or company. Way number 2, you can advertise on this channel. Way number 3, you can become a member of this channel. The link to the membership is down below. And number 4, you can buy merch that's books or hoodies.
Now let's get back to the episode. All our contact details are in the description box below.
Now, in terms of what seems to be an obvious case of violent crime, of course, further investigations will have to be undertaken, and hopefully the perpetrators will be brought to justice. There are a few other details that have begun to emerge. It seems like the storeroom was not the scene of the actual crime, because apparently, according to a report that I read in IOL, News 24 has also done important reporting on this. The victim, Ms. Nel, was dragged, and there were drag marks leading into the storeroom. Apparently, a cell phone has been found in a bakkie that can be traced to her, and so, one wonders, was it a petty theft that turned violent? We know in South Africa that just for a cell phone, people can lose their lives. Anyone at any time can lose their lives. I recall at UCT, when I was a student there was a person who lived in the dorm room next to me. His name was Dominic Giddy. Lovely guy. We entered UCT together, stayed one room away from each other. And he was stabbed in his second year for his phone and lost his life. So that has happened before, and it's plausible that it happened here. Of course, we don't know what happened, but I really do think that as a country, as a collective, we do need answers here, because it's a very sad story, and at the very least, we need justice, even if we have sadness and mourning. But, we did an episode last week which caught a lot of attention, which was on Pastor Mboro entering a school. And it seems to me that schools in South Africa are such an interesting window into both the hopes and the fears of our society. Later in this episode, I'll talk about reasons for hope and some people who are school-aged who are doing amazing things. But, the violence that is being witnessed at our schools. In the Eastern Cape recently, there was a stabbing between students. Pastor Mboro walked up into a school with his security guard carrying an AK-47 and himself wielding pangas. And now we have this story, and this is all, within recent weeks of each other. The educational landscape, let alone the curriculum and infrastructure in schools and the need to equip people with the skills that they will use to go into the economy and live their lives and just learn the stuff they need to learn. If schools are not secure, then all of that education policy can go out the window, because at the end of the day, crime is such a deep problem in South Africa that it's affecting all other aspects of our society, from universities to schools to early childhood education. If we cannot secure and ensure that these are sacred spaces in which young people can learn, then we might as well write off any plans for our country. We have to create safe schools. Learners have to be safe from crime and from intimidation, so that they can blossom into fruitful individuals. And it's just really sad that in addition to all of our social problems, we now also have to deal with this kind of violence and trauma entering the school space. And of course, it speaks to a deeper crisis of violence against women and girls in our society. Who could forget Uyinene Mkhwetyane? We know that we have a crisis of femicide. We have a crisis of domestic abuse. We have crises of sexual abuse in South Africa. And so any time that a woman's life is taken in South Africa, it adds to that deeper crisis that we need to acknowledge and confront as a society. And once again, unless we have a society in which we can all feel safe, no matter our gender, race, predisposition, whether we're more vulnerable or less vulnerable, then we haven't got out of the starting blocks of creating a just, equal, prosperous, and fair society. And so our learners, also in terms of gender violence in our country, we're just losing the battle. We're losing the battle, and we've been losing the battle for a long time. And I really hope for a day when stories like this become rarer and rarer and eventually become unheard of. And I do believe it's possible, but it's going to take us a long time and our society a long time to get there, because there's a deep brokenness within South African society that these incidents are crying out to expose.
Fam, you asked for some SMWX merch and we have delivered. I know you're always looking for ways to help support and grow this channel, so why don't you buy yourself an SMWX hoodie? Super comfy, super warm, and you can represent SMWX. You can check the link down below for how to buy your SMWX hoodie and help build and grow this channel so we can bring you more interviews, more analysis, and more educational insights. Now let's get back to it.
So tragedies like this, are very sad. We recently saw another tragedy not linked to crime, but again, just to say to those who know Reza Saloojee, who was the head pupil at Greenside High, who went missing this week carried away by the currents of a big dam in the Vaal. We hope that he gets found, and also for the Greenside school community, sympathies shared with all of you, because I'm sure it must be very traumatic for your head student to go missing. And to Mr. Saloojee's family, I am really hoping that he is found and that he is well. And again, it's just an example of how precious life can be in this country, but just generally. So I think we're in a tough spot in South Africa. We have these very negative, saddening stories. However, South Africa is an interesting and a weird and a wonderful place, because just as you think that there is no hope left, hope comes around the corner and incredible things happen and you get happy and inspired again. And so our society is filled with a lot of grief and a lot of trauma, but it's also filled with great hope, great expectation, and great promise, because I think we all have this sense that we can be a great country and we can overcome these challenges. They're not intractable. And so at the same time as we worry about those terrible stories, I was heartened again by another young South African who rose to prominence, Bayanda Walaza, who at the age of 18 won a silver medal at the Olympics. Like, I mean, how much cooler can you get, right? To help dry our eyes and restore some faith that good things do happen. Mr. Walaza ran at the Olympics, part of this team that won the silver medal, and is basically the fastest teenager in the world right now. Mr. Walaza can be seen here just showing his joy and satisfaction at this amazing achievement.
And then when Coach Paul came to me, I was like, you know what, boy, now it's time to be ready. You are running. And that's when I was like, you know what, okay, now it's serious. Then I stopped eating ice cream. And then, yeah. So when I stepped in on the track, like, it was the wonderful feeling ever. Because when I walked in, like, the crowd was wow. Like, the people, everything, there was like, wow, it was massive. And then when I went into that block, I was like, you know what, I'm muting everything now. It's me and my God.
And it's amazing because he originally wasn't down to be part of this 4x100. I believe someone else, Mr. Benjamin Richardson, sadly had to withdraw because he got a hamstring injury, and that must have been really tough for him to take. But in stepped Mr. Walaza at the age of 18. I saw people saying funny things on Twitter like, okay, if you win a medal at the Olympics and you're still at school, then you deserve to sit in the staff room. Basically, you can discipline the headmaster if you win an Olympic medal while you're at school. So Mr. Walaza can basically do whatever he likes. I know that he was not able to prepare properly for his prelims because he had to choose between that and an Olympic medal. But I feel like if he has the discipline to perform as well as he did at the Olympics, he'll be fine for his prelims. And I wish him all the best in his studies and exams, and just want to congratulate him for doing great things. And he's a symbol and an example of where so many young South Africans can be if given the opportunity, if given the right resources behind them, and if we can create an enabling environment for excellence to thrive. And that's why the story of Deveney Nel hits home so much, because she didn't deserve that. No one deserves that. And we need to create an environment in which South African children, schoolgoers, university students, all of us can just do the things that we need to do to become better selves and achieve things without having to worry about violent crime or these social crises. So, comment down below. Have you heard of this story? We're going to leave details at the end of this episode, because the police in the Western Cape have asked for any information if anyone knows anything. And, sometimes we just need to share our shock and our sadness together as a country. Otherwise, we go through these things alone and we read these shocking stories and we just put them at the back of our minds. But SMWX fam, what are your thoughts on this tragic situation? What are your thoughts on how we can create educational environments that are safe for South African schoolgoers and create an education system in which people are thriving and not worrying for their own safety? Comment down below, and let's hope that justice is found and that we have more feel-good stories like Bayanda Walaza's and less tragic stories like that of Deveney Nel. Aye.